It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and this is GRTS News, broadcasting live for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. In our headlines this hour, President Adama Barrow returns to Banjul from Equatorial Guinea after attending the 16th Extraordinary AU Summit on continental issues including terrorism and unconstitutional change of government. The Minister of Works, Ibrahim Asila, assures urgent action to ensure successful implementation of government projects as he wrapped up his nationwide familiarization tour. In sports, the Gallant Scorpions of the Gambia continues preparations ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers with South Sudan on June 4th. Away from home, millions of people in Somalia facing acute hunger, malnutrition worsened by extreme drought amid rising food prices aggravated by humanitarian disaster. These and much more coming ahead in this edition of the news. I am Aissatou Keita, and thanks for joining us. Well, it's good to have you here with us. We begin this edition of the news with the presidency, as His Excellency President Adama Barrow has returned from Equatorial Guinea, where he joined other African head of states for the 16th Extraordinary AU Summit on continental issues, including terrorism and unconstitutional change of government. After landing, the president harped on the relevance of the summit. In this day and age, the continent is witnessing challenges in the maintenance of peace as the basis of sustainable development. Here's an excerpt.
Thank you very much. It was an extraordinary summit at Malabo. It was well attended. This summit was about terrorism and unconstitutional change of government and humanitarian issues, and pledging also to support humanitarian issues in Africa. I think these are very pertinent issues today that Africa need to not to consult on, need to discuss and see what is the way forward.
Why do the African leaders choose these topics this time?
Yeah, I think it is the most important issue. It's affecting everybody. We cannot develop our continent if we don't have peace. And definitely, terrorism and unconstitutional change of government is threatening our countries. As leaders, we have a responsibility to make sure we maintain peace and stability in our countries. We cannot do it alone. That's why this time we said we have to come together, put our heads together. We see what is the best way forward. There is a resolution that we have to follow and make sure we fight unconstitutional change of government. It's very timely because we have to put our resources together. If we are together, we are strong. That's why we said we have to pledge towards humanitarian issues in Africa. And I believe that we have to look inwards. Now it's not outwards. There is donor fatigue all over the world. And you cannot rely on donor support only. That's why we said now we have to take the bull by the horn, come together, put our resources together to see how best we can approach these problems that are really threatening Africa.
President Adama Barrow there with GRTS Louis Mendes shortly after his arrival from Malabo. Now, the Transport and Works Minister Ibrahim Asila has wrapped up his nationwide familiarization tour in the Lower River and West Coast regions. After a successful tour, Minister Asila assured that urgent action will be taken to ensure government projects under implementation are successfully completed. Aminata E. Sanyang was traveling with the tour party, and this is her report.
Works and Transport Minister Ibrahim Asila draws the curtain on a busy week of engagements, touring roads and infrastructure projects across the country. Minister Silla and his entourage visited road construction sites in the Lower River region. After 50 years of rough and bumpy rides, the government of the Gambia is moving to construct a 39-kilometer road network from Sankandi to Karantaba. Works are progressing smoothly here, and it's just a matter of time before residents see the end of transportation hurdles in Kiang. Workers here are challenged with water constraints and inadequate procurement of key construction materials amid supply chain challenges in the global market. The roads will contain standard features, including road furniture and safety measures for effective road use. Minister Silla met with community leaders accompanied by the Deputy Governor as local authorities took turns to express delight in the massive development. Minister Silla and his team also visited the ongoing road rehabilitation works in Kolaji.
What you've seen behind us and in front of us is work being done by NRA itself. If you remember, some of you must have used this road before, and you must have seen what the big trucks have done to the asphalt pavement here because of the checkpoint, the military checkpoint. What happens is that bitumen being an elastic material, when heavy trucks stopped, when they stop at the checkpoint where the soldiers are, it sort of accumulates the surface and the material sort of bulks in one area, thereby affecting the riding quality of the road. So NRA decides to cut it out and, of course, use concrete here so that that effect would be eliminated. Once vehicles stop now on concrete, that sort of an effect will not replicate itself.
In his final stop at Jambur, the location of a major government's breakthrough, Minister Sidla observed roads connecting to Farato and outlined efforts to complete the construction of the new suburban network.
The Farato Jambur Road Project. It's part of the 2020-2021 road maintenance project awarded to H Group. And it includes Farato Jambur. We have the Komboko coastal shoulders from Brufut going towards Tujaren. And we also have the Gabajahumpa sidewalk or walkways. So the Farato Jambur is about 5.2 kilometers in length. And the scope of the works includes preparation of the sub-base, adding material for the base course, and also sealing works with some drainage facilities within the settlements.
After gaining first-hand exposure to ongoing government projects on the implementation, Minister Silla gave an overview of his impression for robust growth in the works and transport sector.
We are very upbeat about the level of work that we have seen in different parts of the country. I think there is now renewed commitment from the side of both the contractors and also the consultants to ensure that we double our efforts to meet target, but also target that is sufficient to our standards and also the quality needed. And that we have made extremely very clear to all the contractors. In some places, we are not very happy with what we have seen in terms of progress. I mean, some of them are below 50% for works that should have already been delivered.
The information garnered from the tour offers crucial insight needed to navigate the successful completion of new and upcoming projects.
In some areas, we have seen the late mobilization of equipment to the construction site, to the fact that they've altered the very essence of the start of the contract period. But we are putting pressure on the contractors and the consultants. And as we made it very clear to all contractors that we are not going to accept substandard work. I mean, if we give you money for a specific standard, make sure that these standards are met, because the roads will be audited. And we don't want, following audits, unnecessary queries are raised about things that should have been done and they are not done by contractors.
The Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, together with the National Roads Authority, looks to continue monitoring projects on the implementation to expedite the successful completion of various works. Aminat Isanyang, GRTS.
The Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Professor Pierre Gomez, has continued his familiarization tour to institutions under his purview in the West Coast and Lower River regions. Janketru was with the delegation Rada, and she now reports.
From the Kanifi municipality, Minister Pierre Gomez and entourage arrived in the West Coast settlements of Ndemban and Kanilai, proceeding to Mansakanko in the Lower River region as part of his ongoing familiarization tour. The purpose of the tour was to gather first-hand information about institutions under his purview. This is the proposed state-of-the-art GTTI annex in Ndemban, West Coast region. The new structure is set to accommodate students to acquire different skills. It will be fitted with different facilities to roll out various programs needed for national development. Officials here expressed gratitude for the minister's visit, saying it is apt.
Any government needs support. And if you don't have the support of the people, then you may not move your agendas forward, because people can discourage it. They can, make your objectives fail. You understand? That is definitely one significant aspect of it.
There's still a lot to be done. For us, I believe we'll be ready by September. And I hope these two buildings, we have not been involved in them, I hope these two buildings will also be ready by then.
Minister Gomez, after touring the facility, cited the significance of TVET education, urging the contractors to fast-track the work to be able to complete the project this year.
TVET is the engine for development. And this is a place where, if it is functional, will help train technicians in electrical installation, welding, motor vehicle mechanics, refrigeration, masonry, carpentry, horticulture, satellite installation, solar installation, bakery, panel beating, and so on and so forth.
The delegation later moved to the 36 classroom Kanilai Skill Center under construction. The minister inspected all the classroom blocks. This is his assessment of the construction works, challenges and the way forward.
This place has been here for a long time, and it cannot continue.
Next stop was in Mansakanko, where the minister visited GTTI Annex. The center is under a rehabilitation and expansion to enroll more students. The center manager Wandifa Fati dilated on the significance of the center, which aims to promote technical and vocational education and training TVET.
This center, if you look at it properly, is like in the middle of the country. Proximity-wise, it's easier to reach this center compared to any other center. And then because it is in a rural setting, it is less expensive putting students here compared to putting students in Banjul. So once you go into TVET, you are independent completely.
Among the challenges he cited, a lack of security, a perimeter fence, and staff quarters, among others. This, he believed, will be addressed by the visiting minister. Being excited about GTTI Mansakongo Annex, Minister Gomez commended the staff for the proper upkeep of the center. This, he added, is part of his ministry's agenda as they strive to reinforce skills in the country and increase employability and integration of Gambian youth in economic activities.
Education now being useful You go to school, you come out, and you are not telling Honorable Minister, employ me. You are not telling the private sector, employ me. You are employing yourself. You take charge of your future. You see, that is essence of education. You see, education that will not address that, it is not fit for purpose. And that's what we want, through this, what we are doing here, now replicate it at a bigger level in different regions. I said earlier on, from here, in the coming weeks, we'll be moving to other regions and even Sapo, so that we will later discuss with our development partners to come up with a Tibet center there on agribusiness. You learn agriculture. From the classroom, you go to the farm. That's that's the type of agriculture we are talking about, not classroom agriculture. So and then only from the farm, you now sell your produce. So you see the agribusiness component.
Minister Game said he will not relent until youths embrace Tibet education. Regarding challenges, Minister Game gave a positive response. The tour continues with Minister Game and delegation expecting to visit the North Bank and Central River region. Janke Ture, GRTS News.
Now, the Balus Nagija Association was officially launched at an event which brought together all Balantas from different parts of the country and beyond. GRTS's Mohamed Kabir Mbubrada was there, and he files in this report.
Organizers say the Balus Nagija Association was formed some 6 years ago, before its officially launched on Saturday. The event was graced by the Minister of Tourism and Culture, Ahmed Nkeba, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Sidin Jai, Government Spokesperson Ibrahim Sankare, and other top government officials, with many tribes and native communities fast losing their cultures and traditions. The move by the association marks an important drive in promoting Balanta culture and ensuring that the younger generation maintained their richer traditional practices. The event, which saw the display of various Balanta cultural practices, speaking to the event, also witnessed speeches by members of the association. They hailed the government of the Gambia under the leadership of President Barrow for creating the environment for cultural diversity in the country.
The first development is, we are able to trade a lot of Balantas. In fact, I could tell you that now we have gone very far to trace Balantas who have been here over many centuries ago. Today, to be candid with you, they can no longer speak the language. But because of this Balus Nagija Association, they came out, they said, well, my history, if you look at my progeny, it's Balanta. But today, unfortunately, we cannot speak it because of environmental factors and some integration, mixed into settlements. Because of those, we can no longer speak the language. But actually, we are happy to tell you that we are Balantas.
The Minister of Tourism and Culture hailed the Balusna Association for upholding the Balanta culture and also encouraged the association to do more by teaching the young Balanta elites of their culture. This, he added that his ministry is ready to work with all tribes in the Gambia for the promotion of their culture.
We see a language that is about to disappear, and we want to make sure that this is revived and the language becomes more fluent and more spoken in our schools. And in fact, we agreed in Jarol that we should start seeing how best we can be teaching Balanta language in our communities. I can assure you that this government will do everything possible to protect every language, every ethnic group, every tribe in this country.
Deputy Speaker of the House, Honorable Sidin Jai, who represented President Barrow, highlighted the President's stand on promotion of the welfare of all Gambians.
The President have asked me to tell you that he's committed to serving for and on behalf of the people of the Republic of the Gambia for the common good and interest of all Gambians, irrespective of tribe and or political affiliations. And that as a president is committed to protecting the rights of the minorities of which the Balus Nagaja associations and tribe belongs.
Honorable Njai encouraged other tribes to stimulate the Balanta to ensure the preservation of cultures, which he added is vital for any society. Honorable Njai, on behalf of President Barrow, presented $100,000 to the association as a symbolic support from the Gambian leader. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Mohamed Kabir Mbub.
Now, the Gambia Youth Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the Youth Empowerment Project, on Saturday launched a 6-month business initiative dubbed Gambia's Good Market in Bijulo. The program targets 25 youth entrepreneurs in the agribusiness, creative arts, garments and food supply sectors, amongst others. Usman Mane has the details.
Gambia's Good Market, GGM, is a platform that brings local-made products on the limelight for customers, thereby promoting these young Gambian enterprises, courtesy of Gambia Youth Chamber of Commerce. Ngone Pane of the ITC through YEP, who are the main funders of the 6 months initiative targeting 35 youths, explained the benefits of Gambia's Good Market.
What is interesting about the Gambia's Good Market is not only that it creates a platform for young Gambians to sell made in the Gambia products, but the market supports capacity building of entrepreneurs through training, improving their productive capacities, creating market linkages, but also building them to be able to export to the international market. At the same time, the market is meant as a sustainable tourism product that will contribute to the overall market and product offering, but also product diversification of the Gambia's tourism sector.
The Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, and Executive Director, National Youth Council, Mamadi Damfa and Aliu Jaju, respectively, described the platform as means of encouraging young Gambian businesses as well as reduce unemployment.
We have seen a lot of young people have embarked on irregular migration simply because most of them complain of economic hardship of the country. But with entrepreneurship development, we are sort of creating job creators instead of job seekers. It would be important for this particular event to be harnessed and to ensure that the young people of this country are given the required support and the required attention they deserve in the transformation of their country.
Young people are now believing in themselves, that it is not just government that has to provide them jobs, but again, they have the capacity to provide jobs for themselves, but by extension, also employ other young people. And this is the only way out, that in the next 5-10 years, we should be able to bring employment to an acceptable minimum.
A board member of the GYCC, David Jeng, explained the numerous initiative aims to equip young entrepreneurs in business development and entrepreneurship skills, citing cross-border programs seeking to broaden business markets for businesses. Ramatullah Jallo of the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute, who are now training many youth in hospitality business, said local-made products and cuisines forms the core of Destination Gambia project.
In the GTHI, we take pride in sourced, local produced to enhance our local recipes for the tourism industry. Thus, it encourages the linkage between tourism and agricultural produce. Most importantly, we have trained more than 300 young Gambians, both in the Greater Banjul area as well as the rural settlement through the Youth Empowerment Project.
The 6-month project will be focusing in the tourism development area, where the young exhibitors will have local-made products on display for income generation under the guidance of GYCC. Usman Mane, GRTS.
While that report by Usman Mane takes us to our first break, the news returns in a moment. Stay. Welcome back, and to some soccer news now, as the Scorpions of the Gambia continues preparations ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The Scorpions, who are set to play against South Sudan in their first game in June 4th in Senegal, have played their final test game against the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, where they held their hosts to a 1-1 draw as part of their training camp. Famara Baji has more.
in an international. The Scorpions of the Gambia came from a goal down to secure a draw against the United Arab Emirates in an international friendly tie played in Dubai. This was a preparatory game for both sides, as the Gambia are set to begin the campaign for the 2023 AFCON qualifiers on June 4th against South Sudan. The United Arab Emirates are preparing for their World Cup playoff first tie against Australia. In what was a fairly balanced game, the Scorpions found themselves behind after 38 minutes when Ali Magboud converted from the penalty spot after a foul by Mohamed Sane. The culprit Mohamed Sane then make amends for his error as he set up Musa Barrow, who finishes off well from close range to draw the visitors back on level terms in the 48th minute. The remaining minutes could not bring anything meaningful for both sides as they settled for a stalemate 1-1 draw. This was the first time they scored snatch a point against a team outside the African continent, a morale booster for Thompson Faye and his charges as they set to travel to Senegal for their 2023 AFCON qualifiers opener against South Sudan on June 4th, before heading to Congo for their second game slated for June 8, 2022. Famara Baji, GRTS News.
Elsewhere, to other news around the world, beginning in Somalia, where millions of people are facing acute hunger as Petro Pelton, WFP spokesperson in Somalia, calls for urgent help. The rise in food prices may aggravate humanitarian disaster in Somalia, worsened by extreme drought. Meanwhile, Somali government is asking the international community for humanitarian aid for the 6.9 million people affected by severe drought currently ravaging several parts of the country. Well, however, the UN Migration Agency on Monday warned that Somalia is facing the risk of famine due to severe drought. Let's turn to CGTN for more on that story.
Somalia is in a very dire situation right now, both in terms of food insecurity and malnutrition. You can see that on the ground. The country is on the brink of famine unless we can get sufficient assistance to the people who need it the most. I mean, there is a real risk that will die in these conditions, especially young children and the elderly. And it's likely to be happening already. In fact, I've been on the ground across the last couple of weeks in Mogadishu, in Dolo, with members of the media, and yet we are hearing stories from people that they have lost loved ones as a result of this drought. We don't yet have official figures on mortality rates. The UN uses multiple means to get this information during crises, and there is ongoing analysis on this right now. It's very important to make sure we are accurate in getting this information. But as this crisis continues, as the hunger crisis in Somalia continues, I'm afraid we might expect those mortality rates to continue going up. Of funding. So right now there are 6 million people in Somalia facing critical levels of food insecurity. The WFP, the World Food Programme of the United Nations, we are scaling up our life-saving food and nutrition response to try to reach 4.1 million people, but we have a serious funding gap. We don't have enough resources. We haven't received enough resources. That means that we are having to make incredibly hard choices. We are having to prioritize our limited resources to reach the people who need it most desperately, the emphasis on saving lives. But that means we are having to take from the hungry to feed the starving. If we're talking about the context, as I think you know, this drought is a result of 3 consecutive failed rainy seasons. We are currently in a 4th rainy season, and the projections just aren't looking great. There has been some rainfall, it's been scattered, it's been below average, and I've just been reading some new data about these rains potentially finishing early. So I'm afraid it's difficult to see an immediate end in sight in terms of drought. And for the hunger crisis, we know that it is critical to respond early to the risk of famine, to prevent humanitarian catastrophe. And that's what we're working to do. But unless we close that funding gap, which right now for WFP alone, just for life-saving assistance is some 234 million, unless we close that funding gap, we don't have the resources we need to avert what is already a crisis from turning into humanitarian catastrophe. Somalia.
Quite an unfortunate situation there. Well, we look at our main points once again. President Adama Barrow have returned to Banjul from Equatorial Guinea after attending the 16th extraordinary AU summit on continental issues including terrorism and unconstitutional change of government. The Minister of Works, Ibrahim Asila, has assured urgent action to ensure successful implementation of government projects as he wrapped up his nationwide familiarization tour. In sports, the gallant Scorpions of the Gambia continued preparations ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers with South Sudan on June 4th. Away from home, millions of people in Somalia are facing acute hunger and malnutrition worsened by extreme drought amid rising food prices aggravated by humanitarian disaster. Well, that was all we had time for in today's edition of GRTS News. From me and the entire news team, we want to thank you for the pleasure of your company. Do stay tuned for GRTS.